Hi, my name's Abby from 68 People. This is Charlotte, RMD. Following on from our webinar this morning, we thought we'd come on and just walk through the presentation and give anyone that couldn't make it this morning the opportunity to listen again. So I'm going to start sharing my screen and we will also answer any of the questions that came up this morning for those that were on it. Right. See if I can get it right this time. Okay. So we're here today to talk about 68 International. I am, as I said, Abby. I'm the founder of 68 People and founded the business in 2019. Those of you who don't know us, we are a Northern-based recruitment and training organisation, and soon to have an office in London. And Charlotte joined, when did you join?
2021.
So we're now a team of 16, and this is a project that Charlotte took on when she first joined and said that she would like to support our clients with international chefs. I said that you are mental, and I'm currently here eating my words during this whole presentation. So a little bit about us. Our purpose is that we really want to revolutionise the industry through people. We, as an organisation, as individuals, we believe that everything is about people. We want to, our vision is to create the biggest hospitality network on the planet and use it as a force for good. And it would be remiss of us to only do that within the boundaries of the UK. So hence our new global projects. I'm really proud of our values and we bang on about them all the time. They're not kind of words on the wall. And as I said this morning, it's really important to us, especially when we're relocating people across the world, that these are kind of followed and that, you know, both by the employers that we're working with and ourselves. In terms of the divisions of 68 People, we have our core recruitment business, which is 68 People. We operate 68 Lux, which is a kind of luxury hotel, spa, fine dining division. Class of 68 is our training arm of the business. 68 Exec is where we look after directors and board level recruitment projects. And then today we're going to talk about our international division. Kath's not with us today. She was on the webinar this morning. Kath Powell has joined us recently to head up international. Her background is operations for many years. She probably won't appreciate me saying how many, will she? But she's done this for a long time, so she's a hospitality lifer as well. Here are, just to give people a flavour of the kind of clients that we work with on the recruitment and training side. And as I say, with a vision to open a London office in the not so distant future, so we can further support people that don't have presence in the north. So I'm going to hand over to Charlotte, who's going to talk about the project that she's been working on for the past 18 months.
Hi, my name's Charlotte Kemp. I'm the Managing Director of 68 People. Prior to joining forces with Abby in 2021, I was the People and Culture Director for a company called Mission Mars, who operate Albert Schloss and Rudy's brands. And prior to that, I'd spent 20 years in the operations side of the business, going from general manager to COO across across a variety of businesses, bars, pubs, restaurants. And so I think I'm pretty well placed to understand and empathise with the challenges surrounding getting quality candidates for back of house teams, and also the impact that not having enough people in your back of house teams can have on morale, turnover, guest experience, food quality, and ultimately profit. So that's a bit of background. I'm going to just spend a couple of moments probably telling you some things that you already know, so please forgive me. First off, in terms of background, the situation that we're now facing in relation to chefs hasn't been just a result of the last 2 years. It's really been in the background for sort of 10 or 15 years as the UK restaurant and bar scene, food scene has been developing, quality's been improving, the sector is in growth, and more operators are moving on to freshly prepared food, away from sort of more frozen or pre-prepped food. and artisan techniques are in demand. And so that is meaning that chefs with some element of classical training are in demand rather than just line spec chefs. So whilst the demand for chefs is increasing, the domestic talent pool is shrinking. So it's estimated that 20,000 chefs each year are choosing to leave the industry in the UK. Obviously, we recently felt the impact of Brexit, the new immigration regulations which were imposed in January 2020. And we had insufficient young people, and we have insufficient young people choosing to train as chefs because of the industry perception. And it's anticipated not only have we got a problem now, but this problem is set to get worse because we're going to need an additional 11,000 chefs over the next 5 years. So it's a complex problem, and there are a number of solutions. A couple of them that we're pleased to have worked with and be involved with. One is the Burnt Chef Project, and second is programs to try and encourage young people into the industry, both of which are invaluable. However, we really felt that we needed some solutions for clients now who are really, really struggling with all the challenges that come with not having either the right or insufficient numbers in back-of-house teams. So as the UK becomes ever more reliant on a shrinking pool of domestic chefs, the domestic chef market is becoming more and more competitive. So for every 10 opportunities, there is one candidate, and that's before you get into whether or not that candidate is the right candidate for you. So the competition for quality chefs is extreme. And we're also finding, which sometimes happens when you have a really candidate-led market, is sometimes the recruitment process can be very, very challenging. So we can have candidates that schedule interviews and then, either don't show up or pull out last minute. And actually, in some circumstances, we've had people accept an offer and then, sort of not start the role because they've obviously been given an offer, a better offer somewhere else. So that, from a recruiter perspective, is really, really challenging, and it it's quite demoralising. So we were becoming inundated with clients asking, "Can you help?" And rather than saying no, we decided we would put together a project and with the view that we wanted to offer as a service. So just taking a step backwards, when I was in my previous role at Mission Mars, when we coming out of the pandemic, I felt a bit like I was sort of staring down the barrel of a gun, really, because we had a very challenging opening schedule planned for Rudy's Pizza. The Rudy's Pizza concept is a Neapolitan pizza concept. So it is extremely reliant on Neapolitan pizza trained chefs, and 95% of them are Italian. So our European pipeline suddenly looked very, very fragile / non-existent. And so I thought at the time, how about we get our sponsorship license and see if we can recruit direct from Italy. So we went through the process of getting our license, which actually was surprisingly pain-free in terms of sort of paperwork burden and actually cost. So we got the license, and we had some success in recruiting chefs from Italy, but it was quite short-lived. And the reason it was short-lived is because we didn't have the network, nor the partners, nor the technology, or the know-how to be able to recruit from overseas. So there's a bit of sort of technical knowledge that's required to understand what people need in terms of English language standards and medical testing and this type of thing. And we just weren't set up for it. So when I joined 68, I thought there was an opportunity to do both parts with clients. So support clients to get their license, so help, sort of demystify that and make that less scary. And the second part was, once they've got their license, to match them with talent in different countries. So I pitched the idea to Abby. Thankfully, she said yes, and
that was my first answer.
And we embarked on our proof of concept stage. We were completely serious about, we knew how complex this project would be, and we knew we needed that stage to make sure that we were set up properly, that our systems were robust, that we understood the market and some of the challenges properly. And as a result, we decided to recruit 3 clients, a small, a medium, and a large client who wanted to partake in the proof of concept. During this proof of concept stage, which went on for about 8 months, we recruited 20 chefs during that stage. Up to today, we're now on about 55 or 60 chefs that have been successfully deployed. During the proof of concept, we used 3 pathways, and by pathways is sort of a fancy word for, I guess, target country where we're recruiting from. So we recruited chefs from Dubai, Philippines, and Poland. And we created 2 exclusive partnerships in the Philippines and Sri Lanka. So we now have partners in those countries that are able to support with the recruitment. So that was the shape of the proof of concept stage. I'll tell you a little bit more about a couple of the clients that took part. One is this chap called Ross. He's the CEO of a company called Red Fox and Peacock, which is a gastro pub group, 7 sites across the Northwest. Really quality, sort of premium fresh food offer. Everything's made on site with the exception of bread and ice cream. Ross, we recruited 4 chefs from Ross as part of the proof of concept stage, and he immediately asked us to recruit for a further 14. So he now has a core team of 3 chefs in each of his businesses, and then he builds the rest of the team around those guys. And he was post-pandemic, he was spending about £6,000 or £7,000 a week on agency, and through this project he's been able to reduce that to 0. So he was spending that on temporary agency chefs. We all know, sort of in terms of value for money, it can be hit and miss. And yeah, he's really glad that now he's not reliant on those guys having to support the businesses. The other results that he's reported are reduced turnover across all aspects of the team, but obviously particularly back of house. Teams are more attractive to other recruits when they're stable. He's seen increased revenue because he can return back to pre-pandemic cover levels, and is seeing his NPS, his guest experience measure rocket. So he's had a fantastic outcome, and he definitely sees international recruitment as a cornerstone of his growth strategy. In fact, he actually said to me he now sees a growth strategy because he was finding it so difficult to see where he was going to recruit chefs from for new sites. So that's one of the clients we worked with. Another that we've worked with is Ramona and the Firehouse. So I wanted to use this as an example to just sort of give you a flavour. These guys are at the forefront of what's happening in Manchester, the food scene in Manchester, award-winning independent Manchester restaurant. They cook on sort of real wood fire, and they recruited 3 chefs as part of the proof of concept, and immediately sort of said, can we please work with you to recruit a further 4? We actually recruited for this client, we recruited from Dubai, so it was an opportunity to meet candidates from a different network. And the results that they've achieved is they were able to open. Firstly, they weren't able to open for the full week because they were so struggling so much for back of house team members. So they were able to open for the full week, and then they were also able to add to that and launch their brunch offer, which they've been holding off because they were so strapped in terms of manpower in the kitchen. And we're really delighted to report that one of the international candidates that we actually placed in the proof of concept stage has been promoted to head chef. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about him in a second. To give you a flavour of candidates that we've worked with, this chap is called John Rafael Santiago. He has 13 years experience as sort of from CDP up to head chef and then latterly exec chef. He is a graduate of the School of Culinary Arts in Manila. Prior to coming to the UK, he was the executive chef for the Wholesome Table Corp, which is a Western concept in the Philippines. But they've got 8 beautiful sites, real focus on brunch, baking, everything made on site, and they're incredibly busy. They do something like 800 or 900 covers a day, and he was looking after 8 sites. We've placed him in the UK with one of our clients, which is Trough in the Northern Quarter, which is a sort of all-day bar and eatery. And I wanted to include John because I think it's a great example of the quality and caliber of chef we are able to recruit from overseas. If you were to do that recruitment project in the UK, the skills and experience are just incomparable, in terms of the level you're able to attract. So since coming to the UK, John has really, been delighted. He's been joined by his partner and his child, and he's building his life here. And he's looking forward to his development journey with the guys at Trough, and and anticipates being an exec chef again sometime in the future. So that's a little information about John. This chap is Carlo Pacello, again, hugely experienced candidate, 15 years experience, have worked in 5-star hotels internationally, another graduate of the School of Culinary Arts, and Carlo was recruited from Dubai. So he's a Philippines national, but came via Dubai, which can have benefits in terms of some of the sort of paperwork side of things, which I can go to in more detail if we get to a one-to-one consultation. And like I say, Carlo has been promoted to head chef since his arrival in the UK, and is really sort of causing positive waves in with his guys over there. So once the proof of concept stage was complete, we were then, really fortunate to be inundated with requests from the clients that had taken part in the proof of concept to work on additional projects with them. And we saw that if we wanted to offer this commercially, we needed to recruit some expertise, which is when Kath joined the business as head of international. Kath actually was heading things up from a client perspective. So she actually worked for one of our clients, and she enjoyed the process so much. She enjoyed meeting the candidates so much, she decided to come on board with us at 68 and help head up this project. So the ways in which, so we're delighted now to be able to offer this on a commercial basis to our wider client base. The way our services break down is the key part of our service is recruitment projects. So we will work with clients to outline a recruitment project. It's a minimum of 3 candidates per project, and really that's because of the amount of time and work that goes into understanding your business and understanding what it is you need. We can offer multiple pathways, so we will decide with you what skill level you're looking for, what experience, have you got a particular, is it a particular unique cuisine style that you're looking for, and we'll decide which pathway we think is best suits you. And we will offer support and guidance through the licensing process. So whether or not that is you haven't got a license, and we will support you through getting your sponsorship license, or it might be that you've got your sponsorship license, but you might need some support in applying for certificates of sponsorship and some of those sort of more detailed things that happen toward the sort of business end of things when you're looking to recruit internationally. Once you've worked on a recruitment project with us, you will become part of our international network. And what that means is that we are able to proactively market candidates to you when we come across somebody that we think might be a good fit. So for example, if we were to come across a brilliant pastry chef, we might send those details out to you, and you might decide, yes, that coincides with the recruitment need. I'll meet Joe Bloggs, and that type of recruitment can be done on a single recruitment basis. But you only get access to that network once we've worked on a project with you, because we really need to understand how your company structure, who leads on international recruitment, that type of thing. So as soon as you've done that with us, then we feel confident we can be proactive with you. And it might be that it doesn't coincide with the recruitment need, and that's fine. But to be part of it, you have to have completed a recruitment project. And then finally, we're able to offer compliance audits and ongoing support for clients to make sure that you're complying. So it can be a bit of a minefield. So we are pleased that we've developed an audit with our legal partners, and we're able to come and sit down with you for a couple of hours and check that everything you're doing is exactly as it should be done, and there's no worries there. So they're the 3 parts to the service we're able to offer. In terms of actually getting your license, like I said earlier, it wasn't actually as sort of scary or as heavy burden paperwork wise as I thought it was going to be. It costs between £3,400 and £5,000, and that includes support from our legal partners. So it includes the application fee and the support. And the reason there's a range is there's a slightly different price if you're a small company than if you're a medium or large company. So if you're a small company, and we can go through what the criteria are for a small company when we have a call, then you're in the lower end of that range. And if you're a medium or large company, you're at the higher end. The legal support from our partners, there's no incentive for us to sort of sell that to you. That's something we pay direct to them. However, we do recommend that you take advice. It means that you're not going to run into delays further down the track, and they've become extremely conversant with submitting applications on behalf of hospitality businesses. So it can mean that you've just got all the supporting evidence you need, and we've been successful in every application we've made. Applications take between 8 and 10 weeks, and then minimum salary for a chef on a skilled worker visa is worthwhile mentioning is 25,600, which equates to just under £11 per hour, and that's the minimum you're able to pay. So with the recent increases to national minimum wage and those that are upcoming, we feel it's on a par level with market value. So hopefully it doesn't seem too steep for most people. So that's the sponsorship license. Once you have your sponsorship license, we can then start recruiting for you. So I've laid out the whole process in this little infogram. However, the first step that would be undertaken for us would be to have a launch call with you as a client, a one-to-one launch call where we identify your needs, and also we get to find out a bit about how your business operates and make sure that you're a great fit for our candidates. So we would have that launch call. If you haven't got your license, we would then arrange for you to have a first stage legal consultation with our legal partner. And then we would go about supporting you to gather your documentation and submit your application. Obviously, if you've already got your license, you would skip stages 2 and 3 on that diagram. When we get to stage 4, we're commencing our candidate search. So that is based on all the information we've gathered, what you're looking for in terms of experience level, cuisine, whether or not the candidate's worked overseas before. And we will start searching for candidates. Our process is to screen at that stage and also to conduct our due diligence checks. So, for example, do they have the right level of English to be able to apply for a skilled worker visa? Those checks would happen before you've met the potential candidates. Once we're satisfied that they could be a good fit for you, we will arrange Zoom interviews. Don't worry, the first time I did a chef Zoom interview, I was petrified, and chef interviews can be challenging at the best of times, but we've created quite a good, thorough, interesting question matrix that you can use if you would like to, no pressure, but I've used it and it's been a great help to me. And the candidates that you're meeting is a bit of reassurance. To be at the right level for English, for the English qualification that's required, is a very high standard. So you don't have to worry that obviously Zoom can offer some communication challenges, but language is not usually the barrier. If anything, it's technology. The next step is we conduct practical testing, and that is done. We do that via Zoom. We've got an executive chef who does a Zoom-based assessment. So that's looking at things like knife skills, able to poach an egg, make a hollandaise. So we are trying to replicate the practical elements of a trial shift, for example, but doing it from 10,000 miles apart. Finally, if you're happy that the candidate has satisfied your criteria, we will then make an offer, which we call a letter of intent. And at that point, we would conduct reference checks, make sure everything's as it should be. And then we would go through the visa lodging process, and that would also be supported by 68 International. Once the visa has been approved, that's typically taking 2 or 3 weeks. The candidate would arrive in the UK. We would then conduct a 4-week post-arrival check-in with both the candidate and the client, ideally face-to-face. It was great to go and meet candidates in their new homes and in their new workplaces. We've done some really exciting visits over the past 12 months, so we'd like to carry on doing those. And then we would offer ongoing portal support available from us should you need audits or anything more sort of casual, if you just want to check in with us and check that you're doing things the right way. So we see this definitely as a partnership right from the outset to these people landing and also beyond. So that's our process. So the question that's on everybody's lips is how much does it cost? So once you've got your license, that is a one-off cost. And then it is a cost per candidate. So everybody automatically wants to know how much. So I'd love to be able to sit here and say exactly this amount. However, there are some variables which I've tried to demonstrate with this sliding scale diagram on the screen. So at the lower end of the scale, you've got 4.5. At the high, you've got 8.5. And the things that affect where you end up in that range is how much the candidate contributes. So some clients have wanted to open up the whole market and want to make it as attractive to all candidates, make themselves the most attractive that they could be to all candidates. So they've offered to pay for the candidate costs as well as the company costs. So obviously, as soon as you do that, you might move slightly more towards the higher end of the bracket. The size of the company, again, this is an amount of money that you pay to the Home Office. So if you're a small company, you get a slight discount. If you're a medium large, you don't. So again, if you're a small company, you might move slightly down toward the 4.5 mark. The recruitment pathway. So certain pathways have an implication on cost, and I can explain more about that in the one-to-one. And also, of course, skills and experience level will impact overall recruitment costs. For example, we're currently working on a senior dim sum chef for a client. That person is going to be on a salary of upwards of 36,000. So again, the cost of that individual will be further toward the higher of that range.
When you say pathway, you mean just different countries?
Different countries, correct.
Yeah.
There are some similarities between some countries, so hence why they're on a certain pathway. Could be from they're actually from two different countries, but it's the same procedure and same process. So that's the cost per candidate. Well, yeah, yeah. When we're hearing stories from clients about how much people are spending on agency, and you think this is a long-term solution to your challenge, in fact, it's designed in a way that you would use us and then never need to use us again in the future.
Because it totally surprised me, because when you compare it to recruiting chefs in the UK based, then the same costs.
Yeah, it's not that similar. Exactly. So, and then finally, we want to work with clients that we think are really, really sort of serious about offering a warm welcome, a brilliant place to work, proper rewards, recognitions, benefits, exactly the same things that you offer your UK teams. And so what we would be looking for from any client that wishes to embark on this journey is a dedicated person who's responsible for the welcome and welfare of their international candidates. And also, this person would then become a level 1 user. So on the portal, they would be the person who's responsible for making sure all the documentation is kept up correctly, etc. It would be standard that you offer support and relocation advice. So that might be, the bus timetable. But thinking, what would I want to know when somebody arrives in this country? Information on the rental market, things like that. So stuff that's doesn't necessarily cost money, but does take somebody some time and care. And then finally, there is an expectation for pretty much all candidates that there'll be some support with accommodation. And this tends to range between 2 and 4 weeks. Anything beyond 4 weeks is because the client happens to have staff accommodation, and then then an amount is deducted for it from the employee's wages. So it's less a sort of hospitality measure, and it turns into a sort of rental situation. But it is expected that between 2 and 4 weeks will be offered to enable candidates to arrive and find their feet and look for local accommodation themselves. The pictures you can see on the screen, that's actually Kath in the top left-hand picture. Is it your left? Yeah. Top left, welcoming candidates at Birmingham Airport. The bottom picture is Ross from Red Fox and Peacock at their most recent Christmas party, and the top right is a picture of a card that a candidate sent me to say how grateful they were that they'd had such a warm welcome, and there was a welcome pack and a nice card in their apartment when they arrived. So that's all the sort of softer, mushy stuff. But with all seriousness, we are looking to work with people who see this as a win-win for both the client and the candidate. So the next steps. This is accompanying this little video will be a Calendly link. So we'd be delighted if you'd like to book an appointment with us, and we can start helping you to solve your talent shortage in the kitchens. No commitment. We can tell you lots about it. We can give you a more accurate sort of estimation on price once we learn a bit more about you and about where we're going to be trying to recruit from. But we'd be delighted to chat with you over the next week or so. We did take a couple of questions this morning, which we're going to repeat for
questions. We had a question from Vanessa, didn't we, just about the kind of risks and what are the risks, and were there any things in place?
Of course, with pretty much anything there's a risk. Certainly with hiring anybody, there is a risk that either they're not going to like you or you're not going to like them. So there definitely is a risk. We put in place a couple of measures. One is that similar to how we work in the UK, if something happens within a certain time frame, we offer support in terms of a a credit facility against a replacement. The really big cost is the big cost if something wasn't to work out would be the costs that have been paid to the Home Office in terms of the visa. But that is a cost that is borne by, in most cases, the candidate and the client.
Yeah.
So it will be quite a big undertaking for a candidate to pay for their English testing, pay for their medical, come halfway across the world and sort of on a whim decide I don't want to work with you anymore.
Yeah.
So it is all weighted in terms of, you know, and in 55 chefs that we've deployed, they've all been really, really happy. And I think our responsibility is to make sure that before deployment, we've been really honest about what's it like to work at that place. You know, what sort of
remote is it?
Exactly. And yeah, and as long as we're doing that bit properly, then hopefully we can avoid issues further down the track.
No surprises. And I think, you know, the same with everybody, if the expectations met by an employer, why would anybody look anywhere else?
Well, correct. And I mean, these candidates are committing to employers for, well, the big thing to mention is that their employment, their right to stay in the UK is tied to their employment with you. So it would be quite a big undertaking to move halfway across the world and then to say, no, thanks very much, I'm off, because then they would be asked to leave the country. So you would think if they're working for a good employer that is everything they said they were going to be, then it's unlikely to happen. And I think actually the risk is lower than recruiting a UK-based chef via an agency. So you're paying for that recruitment service anyway, but actually those guys are way more transient than these guys.
Yeah, and certainly from what we've seen, just the level of kind of gratitude and appreciation about starting new lives over here has been like phenomenal, isn't it? People are so happy.
Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely a big commitment. It's taken very seriously from the candidate side. So I think as long as the same seriousness is shown from the client in terms of being transparent, offering a welcome, having structure, then thankfully we haven't had that situation arise yet, but we have built things into our terms should that arise in terms to support the client.
Somebody else asked about the length of the visas.
So visas are available in 1 year increments up to 4 years. So the only downside is if you opt for a 4-year visa, for example, you have to pay 4 lots of 4 annual visa charges. So it gets more expensive. Most clients are reluctant to commit to a 4 years until they've worked with the candidate. So in most cases, clients are opting for a 1 year, but with an option to extend it after a year. So obviously, if the client and the candidate are happy.
Yeah.
So
can you extend it earlier than the year, or you just wait for the?
You can. No, you'd have to wait for the anniversary of it. Yeah.
Somebody asked about the kind of appetite for people wanting to come to cities or towns or rural locations.
We've found a real mix. So we've had some candidates that are really, really interested to live in big cities, and equally as many that have been interested to live in remote locations. So genuinely, and
I suppose that's our job, to match people up to the right place. Can you recruit for other roles that aren't chefs?
Yes, we can, and we are just learning a bit about that now. We developed this service specifically in response to the chef sort of shortage. So our priority is chefs, is building our chef network. However, we do think there's a real big opportunity in the future to look at other roles. They don't offer skilled worker visas for roles like bartender or floor server, but restaurant manager, floor manager, there are some options that we can work with clients on if they're interested to talk about that.
And I know Kath mentioned this one, didn't she, about partners coming over as well, and that's been an opportunity for people to get their partners working over here.
Yeah, well, it's interestingly, if somebody comes on a skilled worker visa and then their husband or wife come as one of their dependents, then they actually don't need a visa at all to work, so they could just find work anywhere. And in some cases, actually, we've found that a husband and a wife have come over and actually found work in the same, for the same organisation, but obviously that's that wasn't predestined.
And somebody else asked about Kath's qualification. What is it that?
So Kath is becoming qualified in OISC, which is an immigration qualification. So it is.
Sounds fun.
I know, it sounds riveting. So Kat's learning all about immigration. She's completed her level 1, she's progressing on to level 2. It's important to mention that it doesn't replace legal advice, but it means that we are knowledgeable about the immigration situation, and we can really offer. We can certainly say what we think is possible or not possible, or what we definitely think you should get advice about. So I think it's good having that knowledge to be able to signpost people.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you to everybody that joined us this morning, and we hope that this kind of recap has offered some decent information to those who were unable to join us. The next steps would be we will have a calendar link on this email that you can book in to ask any questions. We kind of kept the questions this morning to maybe generic questions rather than company-specific questions. So please feel free to book half an hour in with Kath. Like I say, we're not kind of hard sellers. You get on the call and that's it. You know, we want people to kind of find out what we're all about and then choose to use us if that's the right way, the right route for you. So thank you so much for listening, and yeah, we wish you the best of luck.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.